Praises to Allah and honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to my beautiful wife, to our guest speakers, Brother V Bell Bay and Sister K Bell Bay. I give honors to our viewers, listeners, and anyone tuned in for some uplifting information. And I'll let my wife introduce herself.
Islam.
Islam.
First, I give praise to Allah, honors to our Prophet and Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to our guest speakers, Brother V Bell Bay and Sister K Bell Bay. And I give honors to our viewers, listeners, and everybody tuning in. And this is Universal Love.
Islam.
And on this episode, we will be discussing the higher and lower self, as we refer to it as the two selves. And now I'll hand it over to our guest speakers and they can introduce themselves and share some information about themselves.
Praise Allah. Peace.
Peace.
Islam. My name is Sister K Bell Bay, and as my Grand Sheikah Sister D Warner Bay always says, we should tell people what the initial stands for. So the K stands for Keela, so Sister Keela Bell Bay. I am a wife, mother of 3. I'm a school social worker by trade. I've been in the Moorish Science Temple of America along with my husband. Well, I joined because of my husband, and it's been 21 years now. So I work with preschool children, so that's something interesting about me.
Praise Allah.
Islam Moore,
Islam.
Brother V Bell Bay, Assistant Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America and Grand Governor of the state of Illinois. Faithful member of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Titles don't mean anything, it's the work that we must do. I've been a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America for well over 30 some odd years, under the leadership of Brother C. Warner Bay, Brother Olive Ville, and the present Grand Sheikh Brother R. Jones Bay. I give honors to him. I give honors to each and every one of you. I give honors to the host for inviting us on this program, Universal Love, to discuss our two selves. So let us begin.
Islam. Well, today on Universal Love, as we just expressed, we're talking about the two selves. I don't know about most of the viewers, but I know me personally, I didn't know that it actually had a name, one of them.
Yes, no.
But one is called the higher self and one is called the lower self. So as we go along throughout the show, you'll be receiving some information to help you better understand how the two operate and how to notice them and acknowledge them.
Yes, no.
And here's our first question. This is for both of you. What were your thoughts and how did you feel when you found out you had a higher and lower self?
Well, let me start by saying I'd be remiss if I don't give praise to Allah and honor to everything, honor to all that everyone else has given honors to. Sometimes I get a little nervous and
Praise
I
Allah.
don't stay on track.
Yes.
Well, as I said, I joined the Moorish Science Temple of America because I learned about it from my husband. When I met him, he was a member. I had never heard of it before. I grew up as a Christian, was raised in a church. And when I got to be an adult, I wasn't really doing much of anything, had stopped going to church and everything like that. And when I met him, he was a member. So when we had our first child, Gregory, he started getting older, maybe around 3 or 4. He would take him to the temple all the time. And he would come home and tell me things about the temple. He would ask me questions about it. And of course, me not knowing anything about it, and I've been an educator for many years, I said, okay, I need to figure out what my son is getting involved in. And I want to just go and see what's what and meet the people and try to understand what he's talking about when he comes home. So from there, he took me to Temple Number 9 and I met all the members there and I would just visit back and forth for a while. And then I decided to join a couple years later. I think when I found out that there was a such thing as a higher self and lower self, a lot of things started to make sense to me because I could just kind of trace my steps just throughout my life and remember times when I was in my higher self or think of times when I was in my lower self and things got kind of ugly. And so it's just nice to know that knowledge. It's nice to have that knowledge that the two exist within you.
Islam.
Whoops. Could you read the question to me again, sister, please?
The question was, what were your thoughts and how did you feel when you found out that you had a higher and lower self?
Wow. Hey, I mean, you know, when you live a life and you're doing things, you don't understand what you're doing. And, you know, it's easy to say the devil made me do it. You know, how many times do we say the devil made me do it? But we never really took time to think and understand that it was our own devil within, you know. So when I found out that, hey, man, you look, your higher self is the one that always tells you, he speaks to you once. And he speaks to you in that still small voice. In other words, you got to kind of be listening. But because I had been raised in a household and taught manners and all of this, I was always somewhat protected. So I would always, and I go to church and I say, my cup just didn't get full. You know, I felt good because, you know, we was thanking God for waking us up and all of this and all that. But then I found out why some of the things was going on, because when good, I felt good. And then when I did bad, I felt bad. I'm like, but how does all this happen within one person? Until I met the prophet and found out you had a higher self and a lower self. And that higher self is the one that pushes you to do good. That higher self is the one that tells you one time, you know better. But that lower self gonna tell you, don't worry about it. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna always give you, like I say, multiple choices. So I'm grateful. I'm glad to know. So see, I can see when I'm slipping. I can see when I'm suffering moments of despair. That's when the lower self come knocking at the door. The minute you going through something, that lower self is there to try to pull you further down. With that knowledge, I know, I tell him all the time, not today. Not today. Islam.
Islam.
Next question. All right. And the next question is, what are some of the benefits of knowing what your higher self is? And I guess we could put the question after that together. And the question after that was, what are the dangers of not knowing what your lower self breeds? So I don't know if you want to combine it or answer it separately.
But when I began to study the prophet's teaching and start to get a little understanding of that higher self, being the mother of virtues, understanding the purpose of a mother, what a mother's duties are, you know, and the harmonies of life that breeds, because a mother is a breeder, she gives birth. You know, that higher self gives birth to virtues, to characteristics, to things of good nature, you know, just opposite of that lower self, you know, who hatred, you know, slander, you out talking about somebody. So it's just understanding the opposite. One does, like Warner Bay used to tell us all the time, you got two people, one sitting on the left telling you to go this way, and the other one sitting on the right telling you to go that way, you know, but you're gonna always get the higher self gonna speak one time. The lower self, as I say, gonna give you multiple choices. You get the truth, but see, you have the choice to make the decision.
Right.
Well, I'm blessed by the knowledge of and the benefits of it. I'm sitting right next to her here.
Praise Allah.
It's one of the greatest benefits of knowledge of the higher self for me, because I prayed for a wife. I prayed for someone that would bear my children, someone that I could grow old with, that I could take care of, that would take care of me, you know. And Allah sent her to my mother's front door. It's a long story. We'll tell you about that on another program. But that let me know. It gave me a little clearer understanding of my higher self and my connection with Allah. You know, and that lower self, when I'm around him fussy, you know, upset because of whatever it might be, you know, dinner didn't get cooked on time, or I didn't get the piece of chicken that I wanted, you know, little stuff. You see, I'm just using these things as an example that, you know, that's Satan knocking at the door. That's him knocking at the door. And when you open that door, knowing it's him knocking, you have to be prepared to deal with him. I'll just leave him behind that door. And as I say, we and my wife, we don't fuss that often, but when we do, we make sure it lasts as long as the day is. Because when the morning rises, it's over, we start all over again. Praising Allah and thanking the prophet for this knowledge.
Islam.
I think the worst part of yourself comes forth when you're in your lower self. And that's very dangerous. I mean, all the things that the lower self breeds, hatred, murder, slander, lewdness, all of those things. So it's very dangerous to be in your lower self, especially not to know that you're even in your lower self. And then, of course, when you're in your higher self, that's the very best part of you. And so, like my husband just said, it's nice to know that within you, you have the power to choose. You have that free will, and you could choose to do the things that you need to do. You don't have to remain in your lower self, especially if you know that you're in it.
That's right.
Right. Praise Allah. And what are some of the specific things that you do or practice that help you to stay in or get back to your higher self?
Just, common things, courtesy. We wake in the morning, good morning, we hug, we kiss, we greet peoples with a welcome. We keep those thoughts. You have to keep your thoughts up. You can't allow your thoughts, you see, to because you're going through things doesn't mean the rest of the world has to suffer. You go through your things and you have to go through yours and get past as everyone else does. So as I'm going through things, I thank Allah for giving me the patience, the tolerance, the understanding to be able to see these things and the wisdom to know how to navigate through them, through the lessons of the Prophet Noble Drew, because I ain't did nothing without the Prophet.
Islam.
He brought the lessons, he taught the lessons. All we have to do is apply them, use them. He told us, check him out, put it to work. And once you begin to put it to work and you see it working for you and working in you and then around your household, then that you want to do that more. When you clean the house and you put that pine sol or that bleach around and you smell how fresh it is in the house, hey, that's good. You want to do that again. You mimic that. So as you see this higher self taking you into heaven right here on earth, you see what I'm saying? Not the heaven that you got to die to go see that you thought about, but the heaven right here on earth that I can tell you about. You see what I'm saying? Then you begin to grab hold more and more to the teachings of the Prophet Noble Drew, because that's where they are.
Islam.
For me,
It's self-care for me. I really can't be the best wife and mother and social worker and all these other roles, all these other hats that I wear. If I don't take care of myself, I can't really be of any good to anyone else. So self-care for me looks differently. Sometimes it's just hobbies that I enjoy doing: reading, riding my bike, taking a walk, calling my mother on the phone. Those times when I'm going through my despair or I'm overwhelmed, I might just need to open up my Quran or go to a place that's quiet and do some praying to Allah and just try to bring myself to a place where I feel better so that I can be the best person I can be.
Praise Allah.
Yeah, praise Allah. And would you like to say anything on that? How do you practice? What do you do?
Well, for me, when I find myself in my lower self, I start thinking like, oh wait, man, my thoughts are negative. I really shouldn't be thinking like this.
mm-hmm.
And for me, I have to make myself think about something else, especially if the situation has been squashed, it's over with. Because me personally, I tend to hold on to things.
Nah.
And it's hard for me to let it go. Let's say Brother Adam Bay and I, something occurs and we talk about it, and I'm like, all right, it's fine, whatever, that's it. I'll still be thinking about it and still like in my thoughts. And it's like, I have to because thought is the cause of it all. And I have to make myself really think about something different. And, I have another question, but I want to share something. It's like I'm answering the question, but I want to share a situation. So just last night, I found myself in my lower self. And then I'm like, oh, it's not that serious. But my thoughts kept trying to make something out of nothing.
Enough. Mm-hmm.
And I had to go, man, we just did a dry run about the higher self and lower self. Look at me now. And I'm like, well, I know that, but still, the lower self is like, yeah, but still, how you feel is this. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to really just stop. And I'm like, let me just think about something different. Let me think about the good things that the brother and the sister said. And I'm like, yeah, praise Allah. So for me, I have to change my thoughts.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, because it don't take long for Satan to get a hold to you.
Sure
it doesn't
does.
take long at all.
He's all, well, we got to understand that man is truth and falsehood strangely mixed. So he's right there all the time, but we are the ones that give birth to him, and if you follow that thought, then that thought gonna possibly manifest into an act. But if you crush that thought, then that thought got to go back and you replace it with that higher thought, then Satan, he got to go back and rearm himself,
Islam. You know, and I actually thought about when you said the lower self gives you multiple choices. Like, well, you could say this, or you could say that, you could
Oh,
say
yeah.
this. But the higher self was like, don't say anything.
Amen.
Don't say anything. So praise Allah. We have some questions from the audience. We have a few questions. So the first one is, and this could be for both of you, or if anyone answer, whatever you feel best doing. It says, Islam, do you find it to be difficult to identify the one from the other in your life?
I did before I met the prophet because I didn't know that it existed. But now that I know the prophet and I'm grounded, and I'm grounded, so you got to get grounded. You know, I'm beyond a state of belief. My faith is in the prophet. You see what I'm saying? And the spirit of my forefathers and the great God Allah. So, how do you distinguish? I mean, we know left from right, don't we? We went through that just last night. The right shoe don't fit on the left foot. It's got to go on the right foot. So I say you're gonna always be one way. It's when constancy and vanity, just the Lord knocking at the door. That's why the prophet gave us these lessons, letting us know that these things exist within us, that we must learn to subdue them. We must learn how to subdue them. And we got lessons that he has prepared us with in order to subdue them, that we can see them as they arise. You know when you're starting to get upset because things start to coming out of your mouth that don't normally come out. Thoughts start to begin to rise in your mind that don't normally come. Now you have the choice to put that thought into a word, which you can't take back once you say it.
Right.
You see, that's one, you can't take it back. So you have to be conscious and be mindful of the things you say that could harm others. Because I want for my brother what I want for myself. And I used to tell them more, I say, well, when you're going to do harm to somebody, if I hit you in the head with the hammer and I was made to feel the effects of it, how hard would I hit you? You see what I'm saying? How hard would you swing that hammer if you was the one that was going to feel the impact?
Wow.
Just think about it. And do for your brother what you do. That's just my message.
I think for me, it's not so black and white. I think I mentioned this in the dry night. The lower self is key.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I'm in my lower self and I gotta realize because I'm sensitive about something or upset about whatever it is. And in my mind, I'm just speaking my mind. I'm just telling this person what I think. I'm just telling them what works for me and what doesn't work for me, but it doesn't always come out the way. But I don't sometimes. And it has to be pointed out to me, or I have to go back in thought and think about, oh, I like that a little bit. Sometimes it's tricky.
What we say, honey, take the high road.
Wow.
We do that.
Go
Can't
take
go
the
wrong
high
if you take the high road.
How long have you been married, and how has your relationship evolved through the years?
This question from the audience.
Yeah.
How long have we been married?
We've been married. We've been married 22 years, but we've been together for 30 years.
Yeah, praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
And what was the other part of it?
And how has your relationship evolved through the years?
No.
Through the years, we've evolved so much through the years. I think for me, relationships are kind of like, this is what I want to say. You start out in one phase and then you grow to be comfortable with one another and you move on to another phase. So we've just been kind of like going through phases with one another. I mean, there was a time when it was just the two of us. Right. And then came our children. So that put us in another whole phase. Over the years, we've had to make a lot of adjustments because of the phases that we've gone through.
Yeah,
I can say that it's all been teachable moments. Okay. It's all been growing. It's all been, it ain't all been painful if it's been any pain, but we go through things, of course.
Right.
But when we look at it and put it back on the scale, I can say praise Allah. Because it's beautiful when you have someone that you know that they have your best interests at heart.
Islam.
When they tell you what you need to be told. See, when someone tells you something else and you know they just telling you something.
Yeah, just
like,
filling
man,
you up with wind. Yeah.
Yeah, you just poked a hole in me. You know, some of that out of me. If you just told me what I know, you know, when I say you my friend or my brother, then you're supposed to be able to accept constructive criticism. You see what I'm saying? Admonishment, if need be, you know, and whatever else. As long as it's done in a respectful manner. I even teach my children because my father told me we used to have meetings, because I come from a large family. I got 9 brothers and 4 sisters.
Wow. Yeah, that's hard.
And all of us grew up in the same household, you know. So my father used to say, hey, look, we're going to take a little time and y'all can tell me whatever y'all want. During this time, you can say whatever you want. You know, I don't like your daddy because of this. You didn't do it right because of that or whatever. You can give you a chance to express yourself. So I do that same thing with my children because I want them to help me be a better father. I want my wife to help me to be a better husband. And we do it through understanding, you know, and that's through the recognition of that higher self. In other words, honey, don't just love me when you're feeling good. Love me when you ain't feeling good. And
right.
You see what I'm saying? We want to come together. We want to be able to try to work these things out. When we get upset with one another for whatever the reasons are, we don't have financial battles in our household because what's mine is hers, what's hers is mine. If it's needed, take it, do what you got to do with it. See, I don't battle with that. We don't rest in different bedrooms because we're husband and wife. You see what I'm saying? So we live in according to those ethics, you know, and you teach the children to express themselves so they don't be afraid. So I was kind of afraid of my father because he was a disciplinarian. He did not play. If he said move, you better grow some wings, man. And
move just like that.
When he say move, I mean, act like you're finna move. If you ain't get up, you act, scoot the chair, do something. You know, so it's beautiful.
Right.
So,
Praise
yeah, we
God.
spent together. It's been great. She has helped me a lot because I come from a dark side. You know, not all that dark, but dark enough. You know,
right.
She helped me to be a better man.
Praise Allah.
You know, hey, look, she told me from day one, I'm not going for this and I'm not going for that. So if you ain't gonna leave that alone, then be gone. I decided I'm gonna leave that alone because I want to be with her.
Praise Allah.
We balance each other out.
Oh yeah, we're
pretty
good
well.
Good team.
If I'm over here and he's over there, we come together. We balance each other out pretty well.
It's great.
Praise Allah.
Yeah.
And there's another question from the audience. It says, is there a technical definition of the higher self? Excuse me, of the lowest. Excuse me, I read it wrong. Is there a technical definition of higher and lower self?
The definition that, right? I mean, the question.
The definition of the higher self.
That's in the Quran. I mean,
yeah, that's it.
That's what he said.
We have a Quran.
Yeah.
Higher self is the mother of virtues and the harmonies of life and breeds justice, mercy, love, and right.
Islam.
Yeah.
That's your definition.
That's the best definition you'll find.
That's it. That's what the prophet let it be known as.
That's it. And if you want to know what the higher self is, then that's what it is. You know, and the lower self is just opposite. And what it breeds is hatred,
slander, lewdness, murder, theft, and everything that harms.
And everything that harms.
Everything.
That's the best.
Islam.
That harms.
Islam.
You know, that goes for, we have to control them thoughts. Them thoughts will get us in trouble. We start thinking about it, then we start planning on it, then before we know it, we done acted on it.
Islam.
With the lessons from the prophet, you can save yourself. Because these, the Holy Quran is a saving power.
And see, I was going to read from chapter 3, Elihu's lesson in unity of life, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his father God, Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity, back to the highest plane of life with his father God, Allah. And I was going to share some other things about the lower self. You know, the prophet let us know and with his divine instructions that the lower self is rich in promises, but poor in blessings and peace. It offers pleasure, joy, and satisfying gain, but it gives unrest, misery, and death. And when you look at what we got going on in society right now, that's a lot of what you're seeing, you know. And then it says, it gives men apples that are lovely to the eye and pleasant to the smell. Their cores are full of bitterness and gall. And he said, if you would ask me what to study, I would say yourselves. And you will have studied them, and then would ask me what to study next, I will reply, yourselves. So the prophet is letting us know that we're always working on ourselves. Right. You're always working around the clock, 24/7 on yourselves. You continuously got to study. And I know Brother H. Harris Bay one day, he asked me a question. He said, Brother T. Harris Bay, was getting ready to go to convention. He say, so what you taking with you? I was say, you know, we got packing the suitcase, you know, wife, you know, the daughter, you know, got to go get something to snack on and all. He say, no. He say, what you taking with you? I'm thinking, I'm like, I say, the higher self. He say more, and that lower self. It go everywhere you go. So just be mindful.
That's right. That's right.
Everywhere you go, it's always with you. Islam.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you have to watch him. And that's what the prophet said. He said, if you would ask me what to study, I would say yourselves. He didn't say your higher self. He said yourselves.
Islam.
Both.
Islam.
Study that higher self. You'll know what it's capable of. You'll know when you're there. You'll know when you'll know how to stay there most. You ain't gonna be there always, but you'll know how to spend more time there than you do in the low. You know, and study that lower self, because you know he worked fast. See, certain say something else, man.
You said it yesterday. People want to say the devil made me do it. No,
man, say something else. Well, that's what's taught and raised to believe, that the devil made me do it. So we looking for something outside.
Islam.
We looking outside. You see, the prophet told us to look in, look within. Because if you're gonna find your savior, you're gonna find him within you. If you're gonna find your devil, you're gonna find him within you. And it's gonna be you that's gonna have to be able to raise the one and crush the other. And that's gonna be through your faith and through your belief and through your understanding of the teachings that the prophet brought you. Ain't no other prophet taught you this. Ain't nobody else told you that. You ain't know nothing about no selves. You ain't even know Allah until Prophet Noble Drawley touched bases on this land. You ain't know nothing about that. We was all following Jesus, not knowing that he was Jesus of Nazareth. You know, but we was faithful to that because it did something for us. When we got out and prayed, our prayers were answered. Even though we wasn't praying to the God of our forefathers, we were just praying to God. But the prophet came and defined it. He told us who God was. He told us who our God was. He told us how we made his image and after his likeness. He told us about this lower self and this higher self. Follow your lower self, you're gonna get a whooping. You're gonna whoop yourself. Some of us just whoop ourselves, man. You know. I guess we like beating ourselves up.
I just love the language.
I love heaven.
I love the language that the prophet uses. I love language in general. It's so intriguing. And that was what initially, he would just quote things to me from the Quran when I met him. And I was just so fascinated by it. And it definitely piqued my interest.
Islam.
Yes.
Well, that brings us to the next question. When did you want to ask?
You go ahead.
All right. When was a time that you were in your lower self, and how did you get out of it or make a speedy reparation?
Well,
they don't want to go first on that one.
A lot of times when I'm in my lower self and I don't realize that it's clear, it takes a loved one to help me to kind of get out of it, because they'll call my attention to what I'm saying or what I'm doing. And I'm the type of person, I'm so sensitive. I never want to hurt someone on purpose, at least. It just hurts me to the core if I feel like something that I have done or said offended someone in such a way. My family that'll help to kind of pull me back to where I need to be.
Praise the Lord.
And I maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was going out to visit with my mom. So I turned the corner and I pulled up in the alley, and this car that has the alley block. You know, road rage is a big thing with people. You know, we all suffer at some point or another. We want to try to get where we try to go. Somebody cut us off. They moving too slow. We, you know, who knows whatever else might have happened in that day to make us not feel good. So to make a long story short, there was a young man in the car, and it was a guy standing out of the car. He was talking. I said, hey, brother, man, I'm just trying to get back. Just hold on, brother, just hold on. He called me that N word too, you know. So I'm already feeling bad, you see what I'm saying, because of what I was going through, and I can't get where I'm trying to go because y'all got it blocked off. And then he threw the N word in there, and I'm like, well, you know, and And I was about to go there. And some say, don't do that. Don't do that, because there was more people in the car. And I didn't know they was in there. So they was kind of moving out there when I was riding on by. I said, boy, that lower self was just about to grab me, because I was about to stop going to say, no, I ain't gonna do that. So anyhow, to make it story, my little brother was in the alley. He knew the guy, whoever the guy was that was in the alley. So he told him, man, that was my brother, such and such, such. He came back around and apologized to me. And I told him, oh, brother, man, really, it was me who need to apologize to you, because see, I was the one that put the extra coal to the fire to flame it up. I could have just moved on, waited patiently, and went on. I said, no, brother, man, it wasn't like that. You have to be careful, because the Lord self, like I say, he right there. He on one shoulder, ourself on the other shoulder, you see? And at any time you give ear to what he's saying, he got you.
Right.
You know, he got you for that moment. You might take a step or two with him before you realize, oh, wait a minute, I went in the wrong direction. So you stop and you make a speedy reparation to the utmost of your power. Ask Allah to forgive you. And don't go out creating situations like that.
Well, remember the situation about the food with your mom and my mom?
What about that?
That was a huge blow up, a misunderstanding. So our mothers live across the street from one another. That's how we met.
In the neighborhood.
In the neighborhood. So when he says that I came to her front door and that's how he met me, that's true. I was there looking for one of his brothers because he was gonna do some tailoring for me of some pants that I had. Right. He wasn't home and he answered the door. So that's how we met. Back in the spring, we cooked a big dinner, and sometimes when we cook big meals, because of the COVID, it's a lot of things. We don't ask, so on and so forth. So we cooked up this meal, and we packed some things for his mom and my mother. My mom called me though and said, hey, I know you cooked this big meal. Can you bring me my food now? So I was just like, well, we were going to come and bring food to both. Take hers, take my mom hers, take his mother hers. But she wanted it at that time. So I packed all of her stuff up and I said, well, man, I don't know if anyone's at my mother-in-law's house. I don't want to just go knocking on the door and go in there because I don't want to expose her to the people who I've been around. Long story short, I wound up making my mom her food. My son was going to pack up my mother-in-law's stuff and take it over there later for me. He had said he would do that for me. He got busy, didn't get around to doing it. So when he woke up and it was time for him to go to work, he discovered that my mother's food was gone. His mom was still in the refrigerator. So he said, wait a minute.
And there goes Satan. There goes
Satan.
You see what I'm saying? There he is.
You took your mother her food and you didn't take my
hers
mom
and didn't take mine? What's wrong with that?
And it just went from there. And as I said, I can be very sensitive sometimes, and the way her say something to me, catch me in that way, and then lower self just comes right on in. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah. What are you trying to say? Like, I don't care about my mother-in-law? So it went from there.
Smile and hook it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, praise Allah. Was there ever a time when you thought you were in your higher self, but you were really in your lower self? And can you give an example?
Wow. Let me think about that one. I'm write that down. I know it's been a time. I just want to be able to express it when it was and how it happened.
Right.
I think
I'm not I can say I'm not often food, though there's times when, like I said, we suffer despair and, other issues concerning life, and the lower self always is waiting there, to say, well, hey, look, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? I'll give you an example. I used to work a job. I worked for a general contractor, and I used to go to work. And every Friday, I tell him I got to get out of here because I got to go to temp. I got to go to work. I got to get off work. So I go. But he'd always wait till everything got done and all of this and all that for you, write us our checks. And I'm just sitting there trying to be, and I'm going to get on home and get where I got to go. And he'd always wait till the last minute. And we'd get home and we'd have to be rushing. I tell them, when I get home, y'all already be ready because y'all know I'm already be rushing and everything. Just take it easy, honey. Don't let your lower self, get a hold to you. And sometimes that lower self be, well, you're going to be late. You might as well not go. No, I'm going whether I'm late or not, because, and then you go and then you find that this was the moment, the night when I needed to be here because the message that came across the podium was meant for me, So,
yeah.
I just have to be conscious. You just have to be conscious of where you're at. Like I say, understanding what the higher self is and how it works, what it breeds, and being the more, not so much better than anyone, but the more that I am conscious, I see him coming. I see that lower self, and I tell him, man, like Jesus did, I spurn this carnal self with his vain ambition and his pride. Get back off me. Get down. You have to shake him off.
Islam.
I think I think I shared this example yesterday with the sewage issues that we were having with our house. It's a pretty old house, and sometimes when it rains really hard, the sewer will back up and water will come in through our basement, and it's happening more and more because of the fact that the house is old. And my husband's a carpenter by trade, and he likes to do everything himself and doesn't really like to hire anybody to come out and fix it for us. But he gets so busy with his 9-to-5 job that he has, his full-time job, that he doesn't have time for those house projects anymore like he used to. And the basement flooded this last time it rained really heavily. And I got a little frustrated because, things get ruined. Whatever you have in the basement gets ruined if it's flooding down there. And the cleanup, it's just a whole thing that you have to go through in order to clean the basement up. And so I'm talking to him and saying, you've been saying that we were going to get this problem fixed, and when is it going to happen? And I don't realize I'm in my lower self because I'm just kind of talking and trying to tell him what I think or how I feel. But sometimes when I'm doing that, I'm actually in my lower self and don't realize it because I get a little snippy and don't even hear it in my own voice.
Okay. Sometimes until you begin to start saying certain things, then oh, wait a minute, I know I'm in my lower self.
Right. He'll look at me a certain way, and I'm like,
you have to check yourself then.
Yeah.
You have to really check yourself,
Yeah.
And say, well, I ain't buying into that one today, honey.
Like, I didn't mean to say that. I'm sorry.
Keep it on high.
Right.
We have two questions from our audience. They're kind of similar, but you two answered them earlier. So I guess they might have missed it. It says, what are some of the things you do to overcome your lower self so that the higher self can be seen? And the other one is, how do you keep your lower self in check? I know you answered those already, but I feel like they might have missed it.
Yeah.
My answer was self-care. The things I do to just keep myself in a good place mentally and physically, whether it's exercising or listening to music, reading a book, because I find that if I don't do self-care, I cannot be the best wife, mother, whatever the roles are that I have, the hats I wear. I can't be the best person that I want to be. And if you're not being the best person you can be, then you're leaving yourself open for lower self to come on in.
Islam. And I've come to understand through the teachings of the prophet that you can go to heaven anytime you want.
Islam.
It's not a place of meets or bound, a country to be reached. It's a state of mind. So you can be in heaven anytime you want. So how do you stay in your higher self? By defining the things that keep you in your higher self, or those things that lead you towards your higher self, and avoid those that take you away from it. If when you get angry that you subject to say some things that could bring up some other things, then try to avoid those situations. Don't walk in. See, don't try to take on your devil, because he's something else. You can't fight him unless you got Allah and the prophet with you. If you ain't got Allah and the prophet with you, you're not going to be able to overcome, because you're not going to know it's him, because he wears many hats and many faces, and he comes in all type of forms, and it's like the snap of a finger. You can be drawn in. So, you got to be able to see this here and as it's coming. This is what the lessons do to me. They empower me to see that lower self rising up in me before he becomes a full manifest. See, once he's a full manifest, then you got to put that hammer and that axe to work on him then. You got to beat him down and cut him off and cut some of them parts off for it.
I agree. I mean, I've had days where just a terrible day at work, everything that could go wrong did. And I'm driving home and the music is not relaxing me and I'm just getting intense. And I know I don't need to go in my house like this because my family hasn't done anything to me. Right. So I need to just sit in my car in a quiet space and just pray. I've done that before, and that helps me to feel a little bit better, knocks the edge off before I walk into the house to greet my family.
Praise Allah. Yeah, and I know with me, before I came into Moore Science Temple of America, I knew all my names. For some reason, it could call me by any name. The nickname my mother called me, the name my wife called me, my children, and friends. It knew all my names, and it was frustrating because I didn't know his name. And then, and then when I came into the Moore Science Temple of America, Prophet Noble Drew Ali just made it so clear cut and plain, called it the lower self. And I was like, wow, because I knew it was a side of me that bothered me a lot, and I didn't like it too much, and I didn't like when it reared its ugly head, because the outcome was always it wasn't in my favor, and that's one thing that I love about the Moore Science Temple of America and what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought. It teaches you to self-reflect and have self-respect, because it's a lot of times, when I look at me, when I looked at myself before coming into the Moore Science Temple of America, I didn't know. I had questions about some of these things, but then the Prophet just cleared it up, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yes,
and when striving to reach perfected man, how important is it to realize that you haven't reached it yet?
That's very important, because as long as we are in this flesh, we're going to be tempted. We're going to be tried. We just have to continue to strive. We have to continue to keep that higher self out front. That way we can keep that lower self behind. And even as he rises up, you see what I'm saying? We're still able to subdue him, because we're keeping the higher self, that higher thought out there. I think I'm kind of forgetting the question.
Like the difference between perfect and perfected, like knowing that you're.
As you strive and get better, being a carpenter, when I used to have problems cutting miter cuts. I used to, I didn't really, not miter cuts, but back cuts. You see what I'm saying? And so I'd run from them. And then it came a job where, hey, you want to make this money, you're gonna have to learn how to back cut. So you learn how to do things, and taking that, once you begin to work with your higher self, understand your higher self, how it works, what it does, you see, in the state of mind that it puts you in, and you find, hey man, this is the heaven right here on earth. I like, this is where I want to be. So you strive to stay there as long as you can, and visit there as often as you're able, and keep that old other self out of there. Even though he gonna knock on the door, he gonna raise his head up, because he's a part of you. And it don't take but the snap of a finger. Somebody, rear end you, somebody call you that word, somebody, it's all kinds of things that can happen. People, you're out there in the world. You have to, be able to express things in such a way where, hey, look, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna stay on this path right here, because see, you never know who's watching you. Somebody's watching you. They're getting strength from you. They're watching and seeing what you're doing. They're listening to what you're saying. I hear you, but now I see you, and I see that what you're saying is what you're doing. So that even solidifies things even more, because see, man make his words in the semblance of truth. That's that lower self in him. But the business of his life is only to deceive. That's that lower self within him. It's a spirit in the truth. That's why the prophet said, every word I speak is spirit. It's a spirit that ignites you. It ignites that kindred spirit in your sister, your brother, to the point where I can feel he's in heaven, and he just helped me get there too. Just through our communication. Just like right now, this is heaven to me.
I think even understanding the difference between the two words, just
Islam.
starting there. A lot of times, Sister Warner Bay will take us through the Quran, and we'll break down these words. So there's a difference between perfect and perfected.
Oh yeah.
And it's good to be able to understand that. No one's perfect. We're all just human, and we're all striving to get to be where we need to be. So that's where the perfected part comes in. So
Islam.
We're gonna work on that as long as we're here.
And something else I wanted to say about that, the good thing about knowing the difference between the higher self and lower self, and like you all was mentioning earlier, what it breeds. And I remember one Sunday school, Brother P.J. Seal said something that really piqued my interest. And he was like, you know, when you, and I'm not saying what he said verbatim,
Right.
but like when you're in a certain situation, being that you know what they breed, you can see and see a conversation, and in that conversation, you can see what that conversation is breeding.
That's right.
So you can go to it or you can stay away from it. And that's the importance of knowing, because we all have a higher and lower self.
Oh, definitely.
And in being able to recognize it, you can keep yourself out of harm's way. You know.
Islam. That's right.
We have some questions from the audience. One of them ties to what the brother was speaking about. And so you don't know who's watching you. Well, I'm connecting it. And I would like if you could, when I ask this question, if you could tie it to the topic, because the question is, it's a little off topic, but I can see a connection. It says, who are some of the couples that you learned from or appreciated their example of Moorish love?
Brother and sister in the faith, for sure. That's tops right there.
Well,
Just watching them over the years when they were together, and the things that they would do in the temple, and things they would do when they were traveling on the road and ministering to people, and just the things that they did throughout the Moorish Science Temple of America. They were definitely role models, I would say.
Praise the Lord.
I had the pleasure of meeting Sister Pearl Drew-Ali.
Oh,
Wow.
praise Allah.
I did get the opportunity to press her hand.
Praise the Lord.
That would be one. Brother and Sister Warren Bay, of course, those are my surrogate parents. Brother Henry Reese Bay and his wife, who's she's a Christian woman, but she supports the Moorish Science Temple of America. Brother Edward Page Gill, who was a doctor, and his wife, you see what I'm saying? Sister Hardy Bay, you know, who I've learned quite a bit from. She's a hardworking Moorish American that every time I've seen, and of course, my first Grand Sheik brother and Sister Robinson Bay.
Brother and Sister Woodson Bay. That's another
brother and Sister
wonderful
Woodson
couple.
Bay. You know, Brother O'Brown Hill and his wife out of Michigan. I could go on, and please, Morris, don't say you didn't call me. You know, so you know, all of those who fit that bill, you know, who I'm talking about. But some of the ones that touched me, that I've been able to gain some understanding, further understanding of the teachings of the prophet, will be some of those. Sister Washington Hill, you know, who when we were away used to answer all our letters, took care of all our business. But when I came out and met her, and I went to press her hand and hug her, she said, "Hold on, brother." She said, "Hold on, brother. You don't know me. You don't know me that well." I didn't get offended. I smiled at it. You know, I told her, right. I said, "We'll get to know each other." But let me tell you, before she left here, we would hold hands and hug. You know, so I understood that it take a while. Just like when I first came and joined the temple, it took some time before the elders they received us, but before they accepted us, because they want to know that you the message that you bring, because they had some things that they needed and wanted to share with others. But you can't just give it. You want to give it, but you want to give it to those that you pray gonna do the right thing with it. Now, if I see you coming to the temple with a shotgun talking about you want to learn more science, I can't teach you that. I got to call the police. You see what I'm saying? You know, hopefully the muftis that got a hold to you before you got here. You know, which they will. You know, I mean, you look for that kindred spirit. You know, and of course I have to give honors to the one who from day one helped me in my measures of understanding with these lessons, and that's my brother, man, and friend, Brother G. Rush Bay. You know, because without him, I probably wouldn't have gotten I would not maybe have had the courage to step on up because of the place to where I was at that time when I met the prophet. So I give him honors for that, because he let me know, don't be worried about that. Just keep on moving.
And they ask about couples.
And
I talk about everybody I look up to.
What are some of the cousins of the lower self?
Vanity.
Oh.
Pride. Jealousy.
Oh, that's a big one. That's a big
lust. Lust. Yeah. What's that? You know, we get caught up in fashion. We get caught up in design. We get caught up in brand names. You know, we get caught up in those things, those desires of the other world, that, we want people to say, hey, Mo, that's you got it, you're doing it. It's okay, ain't nothing wrong with that. If you're living for that, then that could possibly be a problem, because now that means your thoughts gonna be geared towards that. If you caught up on having a Rolls Royce, then your thought gonna be on getting the finance to get a Rolls Royce. Maybe your job don't provide you with the finance. So now what?
Right.
Now comes another thought. See, that's where that lower self come in at. See, you always waiting there. Well, you ain't got no job, you get that, but I can show you how you can go get some more money and maybe help. Okay, now you're gone.
Right.
Get you on the hook. And once he gets you on the hook, he gonna rule. When you put him on the throne, he gonna rule. And he gonna wreak havoc in your life. I can tell you that by example. And I don't have to tell you something you don't already know.
Islam.
All of us in the experience of our Lord self at some point in time.
A cunning person, when you're being cunning, the wheels are already turning. You're already planning what you want to do as far as going into the lower self.
Oh, yeah.
You're planning it out when you're being cunning.
Islam.
I have another question. Well, this is from me. Well, the brother and I.
Islam.
When it comes to interacting with our families, brothers and sisters within the movement, and the public in general, why do you think it is important to know what the higher and lower selves are and how to identify them, especially now in the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies?
Because people out there taking these moments here and using them as moments of fear when they get your attention, and then they can take that and play off of it because they know you're going to stop to listen, because you want to know, we're concerned about what's going on. So if you striking fear in me, then you got my attention. I'm listening, I'm following what you're saying. That's just how I see. I think I had something else.
Can you repeat it?
Yes. It says, when it comes to interacting with our families, brothers and sisters within the movement, and the public in general, why do you think it is important to know what the higher and lower selves are and how to identify them, especially now during the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies?
Well, something that comes to my mind is how the prophet said that the public is unstable and ungrateful.
Islam.
And working in the field that I work in, social work, my job is all about trying to help other people, trying to support to their needs, trying to do all that I can to assist them with whatever it is that's needed at the moment. And I think sometimes when you're doing that, when you're in that type of a role, it's almost a selfless thing. But if you are dealing with someone who is ungrateful or they're not even trying to show that they appreciate you in some type of a way, that can place you in your lower self. But then I have to remind myself, okay, this is my job. This is the path that I was put on. Allah put me on this path to support to the needs of other people. So I can't get mad if someone else is like ungrateful or they don't appreciate what I did for. I didn't do it for that. I did it because that's my calling. So yeah, I think once again, it can higher self and lower self can get kind of entangled sometimes. At least for me, it's not always clear. When I'm doing a good deed, it's not always clear.
Then my main concern is, the ministry goes out to all, but it does not always reach all. I'm reminded of a lesson in Jesus, in the Quran of Jesus. He said amongst them was one, a tiller of the soil, seek after the truth. See, one, if you just touch one heart and one soul, and that goes on to replenish as the mustard seed, you see what I'm saying, does, then you've done well, because that one, everybody, as a lesson said, many are called, but a few are chosen. A heap see, but only a few know, because only a few of us gonna actually study. See, a lot of us like to wait for others to go do the homework and bring it back. But see, these lessons here, you have to go and study for yourself. Because the prophet teaches us, man is not what he's been told. You can say what you say and inform me of these things, but I got to know that the water is hot. You see what I'm saying? To know that the clay, how the clay gonna fit my foot, I got to put my foot in it. I got to put my foot in the water. You got to walk some with the prophet. You got to put some trust and faith in the prophet and give him the opportunity to show you who he is. We know we believe in the beginning that he's real, because these are some things that we've never heard, and they've touched a part of us within us that we've never felt before. Knowledge of your higher self and lower self. You ain't know nothing about that. Now that you know about it, you can check yourself. Don't nobody have to tell you. You'll know when you start using those 4-letter words, you know those are not of the higher self. You know, so renew your acts and amend your ways and get back in line.
And we're nearing the end of this episode of Universal Love. And with that being said, we typically leave the viewers and the listeners with closing remarks from everyone. And whichever one you feel like you're doing the honor, you could start by giving your closing remarks to leave someone with some form of uplifting information.
I just want to thank everyone for being here. I was really flattered when the sister reached out to me to ask if we would be on the show with you all.
Praise the
So
Lord.
when I shared the information with my husband, he was just like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds like something really good. So thank you for inviting us, and for us to be able to have this opportunity is a blessing. I think in light of everything that's going on with COVID-19, I would just say, pray, keep the faith. Let's keep hope alive.
Wow.
Do the things that need to be done to continue to bring safety amongst the families and nation. And for those of you who maybe in the beginning didn't have knowledge of your higher self or lower self, I pray that after this show, you'll have a little more or a little clearer understanding of your higher self and lower self. No longer will you be able to use the term "the devil made me do it," because we know you should be now aware to some degree of who your devil is. You watch his face. You give him the nourishment. You see what I'm saying? And the strength. And if you don't give him the nourishment nor the strength, then he's going to remain weak. And as long as he's weak, you can stay on him. You keep that higher self. Let the higher self in you prevail. Learn how to put your trust in the prophet and listen to what he is saying and follow his instructions. Sometimes they might not be all that clear to you, but when you trust someone, just like a child trusts a mother or a child trusts a father, the father tell you, come on, cross the street, or you all right, come on. That child gonna come on across it because he feels that the father or mother is gonna protect him, and that's just how it is. We take these things and don't raise it too high that you can't understand it. Keep it where you can understand it. And you'll get more out of it. You try to go into the ethers and go all over it. Just stay right here. When the time comes for you to go there, you'll be able to get there. And it's beautiful. I thank you, brother and sister, for having us. I thank the audience, for their attention. And I give praise to Allah and honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali for everything that he has done and is doing for me. And I pray that everyone across the nation will remain vigilant with this pandemic and understand that the prophet told us about this many, many years ago. The same thing he told us about the president and all the other things that he informed us of. These are just the prophecies being made true to let you know you behind a true prophet. You're behind one that has already told you what's going on. All you got to do is get ready. And make sure you get your households in order. Make sure you get your waters, get your 90-day food supply, because this is just, as they say, the first wave. We don't know, but don't let fear cause you to miss the mark. Stay behind the prophet.
Oh, my closing. I want to thank both of you for coming along to the show.
You're more than welcome.
It's truly an honor hearing both of you speak, because I got a lot from it. During our dry run, I shared what happened later on that night. And it's just been truly a blessing to be able to bear witness to what's being done within the Moorish Science Temple of America. And but Agnes Bay is gonna check on our little one. But and I'm just very grateful to have been able to witness this show, because I'm serious. I got a lot from what both of you shared.
Praise a lot.
Even with the sister, when she's speaking about self-care, being a new mother, it's hard to pay attention to yourself.
Yes, it
sometimes
is.
You have to make time to do everything else for yourself.
That's right.
You have a child, you have to tend to the duties of your household, your children. It's not just you anymore. Right. I had a plan. Oh, I'm gonna do this at 9 o'clock. No. Baby wants to take a nap now,
Right.
you know, so I just give praises to Allah.
That's
I'm
good.
grateful. And I'm also give honors and I'm thankful for the listeners and everyone who tuned in as well.
Most definitely.
And I hope that you all got something from this.
Praise Allah.
Islam. Yeah, I would like to say first, I give honors to Brother V and Sister K Bell Bay. It's been a pleasure having you two on Universal Love and sharing some uplifting information for us as pretty much I guess we would say newlyweds, and the viewers in this lifetime, but in the viewers, I hope you all receive some uplifting information. And Prophet always, what I want to say is that, you know, the Prophet lets us know that that if we put our hands in Allah's unwavering hands, all will be well.
Certainly.
Like Brother B. Bell Bay was saying, you know, it's a lot going on out here, but don't let fear creep in, because when fear creeps in, you're bound to do anything.
That's right.
You know, and it's very important to know that you have those two selves, because one breeds good and the other breeds just
Havoc.
havoc in your life. And we've all, I would speak for me, but I would hope that everyone could be honest with themselves, that we all have had moments that we can relate to both of them.
Certainly.
But in taking on the teachings of the Prophet and applying them in your everyday life, you can see a change to where you strive for the greater of the two, you know. And I would also like to put out to the viewers and listeners that Universal Love will not be airing next week, because we're having a special event that's taking place next week, and we'll be back in, I guess that would be 2 weeks from now. And so with that being said, as we typically end our show, we say we coming to you in love, and we leave you with peace.
Peace. Peace, more.
Peace, more.
Y'all have a good evening.
You all too. Peace.
Peace.